Hello Summoners and welcome back to another ProGuides patch rundown. My name is Nathan Ng and I'll be covering for Christoph today. I know he usually does these. And on top of that, I really want to apologize for my voice. I lost it as if I were screaming on League of Legends all day. I'm not saying I did that, but I'm also not saying that. I'll cover all the details, including a tier list for each role made by our challenger, analysts, and partner pro players. Patch 10.2 will be the very second patch of the season, and there are a number of significant changes that will raise a lot of questions. Will Aphelios' nerfs make him useless? Is Nautilus finally leaving the meta? Will Kiana be getting gutted? Don't worry, we've got you covered and we'll answer all of these questions in the video. But remember, since the patch just hit live servers, please do keep in mind that our tier lists are just purely predictions. We encourage all of our viewers to comment on these lists and say if you agree or disagree with us on specific champion placements. Also, as a reminder, there will be an updated tier list 1 week into the patch as we use fresh stats to give you the best and most accurate tier list possible. Today's question of the day is, if you could choose one champion to get gutted next patch, who would it be? Let us know your answers in the comments below. Before we get started though, are you getting ganked in your own lane, constantly demolished? Don't worry, we've got you covered. ProGuides is the #1 proven way to quickly help you level up your League of Legends skills. Whether you're looking for tier lists, champion guides, coaching, or courses from your favorite pro players, ProGuides is where you'll find them. Even players like Nightblue, Bunny Fufu, and Loco Doco support ProGuides. So what are you waiting for? Click the link and start improving right now. Alright, to kick things off, we have 6 new skins that will be joining us on the Rift this patch. First up, we have the Guardians of the Sand skin line featuring Rengar, Ryze, and Janna. And then next up, we have the Dragon Slayer skin line featuring this Icy Trundle skin, and then the Fiery Diana and Olaf. I can't wait to try out some of these skins today. I've been a huge fan of Diana for quite some time, so I'm definitely going to be purchasing that skin. Now with all that out of the way, let's go into the balance changes and tier lists. Cloak of Agility has been one of the strongest item components in the game thanks to its ability to stack up to 100%. Pretty much every challenger ADC has been building 4 crit cloaks every game due to the amount of value it brings at such a low cost. However, for patch 10.2, this build will be gutted and Cloak will have its total crit strike lowered from 25% to 20%. That means you'll have to build a total of 5 crit cloaks in order to get that 100% chance, which kind of defeats the purpose of the build. In addition to that, this is a nerf to AD carries in general since most of them rely on building this item early. Next up for the items, we have a buff coming for Frozen Heart. This item has been heavily overshadowed by some armor items in the game such as Radio's Omen, Thornmails, and even Iceborne Gauntlet. For patch 10.2, Frozen Heart will have its armor increase from 100 to 110, which is actually a huge buff. Though 10 armor doesn't seem like much, you have to consider how cheap this is. You'll almost get an extra cloth armor's worth of value for absolutely free, so we'll for sure see this item being built more often. Stormrazor has been a common favorite amongst AD carries in the past few months and is being nerfed in patch 10.2. This is mainly because the balance team wants to open up more itemization options for the bottom lane instead of just Stormrazor being rushed every single time on every single bot lane champ. For 10.2, Stormrazor will have its damage lowered from 55 to 50. Although losing 5 damage seems like it will be negligible, you can still bet that people will be building this item. One of the Stormrazor's greatest strengths is the slow that it grants, which remains completely untouched this patch. And lastly, for the general balance changes, we have adjustments coming to Rift Herald. Ever since the Elemental Dragons were introduced in this game, most junglers have been completely ignoring the top half of the map. Rift Herald pretty much started feeling like a minor inconvenience rather than an actual objective, which gave even more reason to ignore the top lane. However, for patch 10.2, Herald will receive a nerf in order to reduce the clear speed needed to kill this objective. Its base HP will be lowered from 5500 with 8250 through 16500 scaling to 4750 with 7,125 through 14,250 scaling. This actually cuts the clear speed for clearing Herald by a lot, and you'll start seeing more junglers on the top half of the map. Now onto the tier list and champion balance changes. The top lane tier list sees almost no changes compared to what we had in the previous patch. This is mainly due to patch 10.2 coming with 0 balance changes towards the top lane. However, in the S+ tier, we welcome a new member, Set. Set has been bumped up from S tier to S+ tier due to his win rate and play rate increasing significantly over the past week. Only a few champions like Renekton and Gangplank can beat him in the moment, which makes Set a very valuable pick. He's one of the only champions in the game who has this unique playstyle of punishing opponents for trying to hit him during fights, so it's tricky to go up against. If you're looking for a solid top laner who can smash almost melee top lane 1v1, then Set is highly recommended. Next up in our A tier, we have a few champions that we want to talk about, starting with Akali. Although Akali is pretty annoying to deal with at the moment, she's actually going to be receiving some nerfs in 10.3. So for all the top laners who want to ban her at the moment, you just have to hold up for one more patch before she's completely gutted. We'll keep you updated with all the balance changes made to her next week, so click that sub button and be notified when that comes out. Also in the A tier, we want to talk about Camille. Ever since Set was released onto the Rift, our analysts noticed that Camille's win rate and pick rate in the top lane also increased as well. Players have found out that Camille is one of the few top laners who can beat Set in a 1v1 thanks to her mobility and dueling potential. It comes incredibly hard for Set to land his W against her because her movement speed from her Q, mobility from her E, and untargetability from her ultimate. In addition to that, Sett will pretty much get hit by every single Camille W in lane, and it's also very hard for him to dodge her E since he has zero mobility. But one thing to note is that Camille is one of the hardest champions in the game, so make sure to practice her in normals before jumping into ranked. If you first time this champion in ranked, I guarantee you that it'll seem like she doesn't actually counter Sett, so practice beforehand. Now onto the jungle. Channel has been one of the weakest junglers in the game for quite some time, but is finally receiving some significant buffs in patch 10.2, along with the skin. Firstly, his W, Frozen Domain, will have its movement speed increased by 10% at all ranks, followed by 5% slow buff to his E, Pillar of Ice. These two buffs are actually quite impactful since you can now close the gap between yourself and the opponent faster. In addition to that, tanks like Ornn, Nautilus, and Leona have been seeing a lot more play, which makes Trundle a perfect counterpick for the meta. Trundle will be moved up into the jungle A tier patch for 10.2. Although Qiyana is traditionally played as a mid laner, we'll be covering her nerfs in the jungle section because it affects her the most in this role. Riot has made it very clear that they're not a fan of champions being flexed into 3 different roles, whether it was Sylas mid, top, jungle, or Qiyana mid, top, jungle. They don't want it to be in this game. For patch 10.2, Qiyana jungle will be seeing some heavy nerfs with her W Terra Shape's attack speed lowered from 20% to flat 5 to 25% depending on the rank. Since you don't max this ability first, it's going to impact her clear speed by a ton and she'll be taking a lot more damage in the early clear. This will likely gut Qiyana's jungle and she'll be placed in D tier for patch 10.2. The jungle tier sees almost no changes compared to the one that we had in patch 10.1. This is mainly due to the jungle having almost no significant changes with this patch, so you can continue to play your comfort picks for the next 2 weeks. In the S+ tier, we have 3 champions, which are Elise, Echo, and Olaf. These jungles are by far the strongest in the game, and our analysts highly recommend you give them a try. In the A tier, we have one notable pick that we want to talk about, which is Nidalee. Although her stats in the Western servers like EU and NA aren't that impressive, Nidalee's actually been thriving in Korea. She's one of the strongest jungle picks in the East and is heavily underrated. An experienced Nidalee player can beat out most of the S+ and S tier jungle picks currently, and does decently well into most A tiers as well. One of the biggest differences that we see in Western Nidalee players is that they don't invade the enemy jungler enough. Korean Nidalee mains are constantly proactive and aggressively forcing dives and skirmishes deep in the enemy territory. If you ever take time to learn her, then make sure to keep this in mind. Lastly, for jungle, let's talk about Master Yi. Master Yi's win rate has been skyrocketing in the past few patches thanks to his Taric boosting strat. If you've been following our videos for quite some time, then you would have noticed that we mentioned this build quite a while back in our OP Korean builds video. It turns out that this build is extremely OP and we've seen a ton of players hit Master Tier with insane win rates because of it. If you want to cheese your way into high ELO, then make sure to pick up a duo partner and give this a try. We'll leave a link in the video describing how to play this duo in the description, so check it out later. Now, let's run it down mid. First up is Victor, who will receive a bug fix in patch 10.2 and will be impacting his win rate quite a bit. His passive, Glorious Evolution, will no longer prevent his base mana from stacking with the prototype Hex core values. This means that he'll have more mana during the late game, which is always welcome. Victor will not be moved in patch 10.2 and will remain in the B tier. Ziggs has been one of the worst champions in the game for a very long time. His hitboxes are inconsistent, his damage is lackluster, his projectiles are easy to dodge, and the list just goes on and on. However, for patch 10.2, Ziggs will receive 3 major buffs that will help him bring him back into the meta. Firstly, his Q, Bouncing Bomb, will have his damage increased by 10 at all ranks. Next up, his W, Satchel Charge, will have its knockback distance increased by 100. And lastly, his E, Explosive Minefield, will have its slow increased by 10% at all ranks. These 3 buffs are great for Ziggs, but he'll still remain in the mid lane C tier. Adjusting his numbers is only the tip of the iceberg for this champ, and he'll be needing a lot more buffs to return to his prime. The mid lane tier list remains pretty much similar due to there only being a small balance change made in patch 10.2. In the S+ tier, we have the same 3 champions, which are Diana, Kassadin, and Fizz. These 3 have stayed up there for quite a few weeks now, and I'm pretty surprised that Diana hasn't been nerfed yet. Qiyana has been dropped down into the mid lane A tier due to the nerfs that we mentioned in the jungle section. However, there's a very high chance that she makes her way back into the S tier into the coming weeks, so we'll keep a close eye on that. Also in the S tier, Sylas has been doing very well recently thanks to his rework. Although he is a lot clunkier to play, his damage and healing has been much stronger and pro players are starting to play him once again. I gotta admit, I do prefer the old smooth animations Sylas, even if it was weaker because it felt more fun to play. Let us know which Sylas you prefer to play in the comments below, the smooth but weak Sylas or the clunky burst mage style. Lastly, for the mid lane, we want to mention a hidden gem called Taric. Like we mentioned in the jungle section, the Taric E funnel strat has been dominating the Rift, and Taric is officially the highest win rate mid laner. He holds a whopping 67% win rate with around a 1% pick rate, which is honestly just nuts. This funnel strat is super OP and you should try it out with the duo partner. And now onto the ADC changes. Out of my 9 to 10 years of playing League of Legends, I've seen a lot of broken things in the game. Whether it's the release of reworked Skarner, Runeglaive Ezreal, or the one-shot Galio, and trust me, Aphelios is kinda up there. He is really something else and is receiving a much-deserved nerf in patch 10.2. Firstly, his sniper weapon Calibrum will have its mark damage lowered from 20 to 40 with 30% scaling to 15 flat with 20% scaling. The Calibrum Q cooldown will also be increased by 1 to 2 seconds depending on the rank. Next up, Crescendo in the Chakram will have its base AD value lowered from 130 to 264% to 130 to 223%. And lastly, his pistol weapon, Severum, will have its Q damage lowered from 10 to 30 with 35% scaling to 10 and 30 with 30% scaling. These 3 nerfs are all great on him, but don't worry Affiliate mains, he'll still be incredibly powerful. Affiliates will be lowered from the S plus tier to the S tier, but there's also a very good chance that he gets back to S plus tier in our mid-patch update. Caitlyn has been one of the strongest AD carries in the game now and is receiving some heavy nerfs in patch 10.2. Firstly, she can no longer get bonus headshots by inputting attack move commands near the targets while they are trapped and netted simultaneously. Next up, she can also no longer use the attack move to attack trapped or netted targets while she is CC'd. This basically means that Machine Gun Caitlyn headshot combo is completely gutted and deleted from the game. In addition to this, the Crit Cloak and Storm Razor nerfs will also lower her win rate. She'll be moved from the S plus tier to the S tier. Draven's win rate has been dropping slightly every patch since the preseason. However, the patch 10.2, Draven will be receiving some buffs that will help bring him back to his prime. In other words, he's not really selling his new skin. His ultimate, Whirling Death, will have his scaling increase from 110% flat to 110 through 150% depending on the rank. This is a gigantic buff towards Draven's burst, and he will be moved up from the A tier to the S tier. Lastly, for AD carries, Jinx will be receiving a buff this patch. Her passive Get Excited will now activate whenever you kill an epic monster. This is a change that Jinx mains have been asking for a very long time, and I'm glad that Riot's adding this to the game. Jinx will be moved up to the S plus tier for patch 10.2. The ADC tier list has seen a ton of major changes in patch 10.2. In the S plus tier, we have 3 champions, which are Miss Fortune, Senna, and Jinx. Senna's win rate has been steadily increasing for the past few patches, and the nerfs made to the crit items has brought her back up to the top. Since Senna is most unaffected by those crit nerfs, she'll start to thrive again in the meta. Her Mirror Mana build combined with Lethality is still her go-to, and we'll be seeing her played a lot more often during this patch. Miss Fortune, on the other hand, still takes the cake for being the strongest AD carry in the game. She's super flexible when it comes to item builds, and the Storm Razor nerfs will do almost nothing to her. She can also still opt out for that 4 Dorns build or just rush an Essence Reaver to play around that nerf and be just as effective. If you main ADC, then give this champ a try. There are a ton of players hitting high ELO with their insanely high win rates. In the A tier, we have one champion that we want to talk about, which is Jhin. If the crit nerfs didn't happen this patch, then Jhin would have been pushed up to S tier. However, just when he was about to make a small jump, the balancing pulled the rug underneath him. Don't get me wrong, Jhin is still a great ADC, but he'll be slightly weaker than he was before. Now finally, onto supports. First up, we have some buffs for Karma. Karma was recently nerfed quite a bit due to her being too dominant in the top lane. However, those nerfs are a bit too heavy for her role as support, and she's being buffed this patch. Karma's Q, Inner Flame, will have its damage increased by 10 at all ranks, followed by another 10 damage increase to her W, Focus Resolve. These 2 buffs will help her a ton, and she'll be placed in the support A tier. Lulu has been receiving a ton of buffs recently, and it appears that she's getting another one in patch 10.2. Her base armor and AD will be adjusted slightly, followed by a cooldown buff to her E, Help Picks. This is a huge buff to her since her E is one of the most used abilities. Lulu will be moved into the S tier for patch 10.2. Nautilus has been one of the most oppressive and dominant support picks in the meta and is finally being toned down this patch. His Q, Dredgeline, will have its damage lowered from 80 to 280 to 70 to 250. Although losing 30 damage is pretty big, Nautilus will still remain in the S plus tier. Nautilus support is strong due to his survivability and engage potential. He's got too many tools to set up for kills and be impactful in teamfights. This nerf will mainly affect his stance as a mid laner. Sona has been somewhat of a forgotten champ recently, but is receiving some love this patch. Her E, Song of Celerity, will have its movement speed increased from 10 to 14% with a 3% per 100 AP to 25% to flat 4% per 100 AP. This means that she'll be able to run around the map at extremely fast speeds. However, in a meta where hard engage supports are so strong, she'll likely not be good enough for the S tier. Sona will be placed in the A tier for patch 10.2. The support tier list sees quite a few changes in 10.2. In the S plus tier, we have the same 3 champions who continue to dominate the meta, which are Nautilus, Leona, and Blitzcrank. League of Engage supports is still going to be prevalent in patch 10.2, so stick to these 3 in ranked. In the A tier, we have one pick that we want to cover, which is Braum. Braum is actually doing really well in the meta, but has flown under the radar for most of the players. People seem to have forgot that he existed in the game despite those massive buffs he received a few patches ago. If you made a support, then give him a try. He's really strong with AD combos such as Lucian or Caitlyn. Lastly, for supports, let's talk about Nami. This champion is so incredibly strong right now, but is gated by the nasty engaged supports. Whether you're versing a squishy support such as Soraka or Janna, lock in Nami. The buffs made to her E last patch have skyrocketed her win rate, and she's still pretty much unbeatable in 2v2 versus enchanters. And that's it for our patch 10.2 rundown video. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like, comment, and sub to our channel and be notified for our next video. Make sure that you check out our website for in-depth content and guides that were made by your favorite pro players. The second part of our meta-analysis video will be available next week, which will give you the most accurate tier list available using fresh stats. Again, my name is Nathan Ng, and I just want to say that I appreciate all the constant support on my Instagram, which is @Nathan_ING, and the few games that I played with you guys on League of Legends. And if you want to add me, it's N8DGR8. Right now, the friends list is a little bit messed up, but I'll add you guys as soon as it's fixed. Also, one more thing, I just want to thank you guys so much for bearing with my voice, as it's been so difficult for me to get through this entire video. But with that all being said, I hope I get to see you guys on the Rift and in the comment section down below. Have a great day and good luck on the climb.